Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia, where for the first time at the Korea International Circuit, last used by Formula One in 2013, a fabulous stretch of racing tarmac, but the overlying theme, it's unbelievably hot and very, very humid. It's going to be deeply uncomfortable for the drivers in the cars. Two drivers sharing a car over a 1 hour race, one this afternoon and one tomorrow, and the local hero is leading the way around, MG Choi. But let's take a look back at the action last time out at Fuji. Start of the race, Tanat Sati and Thirikal on the left of your screen made a decent start from pole position. Trying to go around the outside at the first corner was the 97 Mercedes from Indigo Racing. And for the 918 Panther AAS motorsport car, for Fuji corner through Fuji, that was an unusual way to return to the pits. Could only just see under the bonnet and unfortunately clattered into Wan Bo, half spun the absolute car. Out front though, it was all looking very, very good indeed for Olof Bruins. And there, the first three getting closer and closer, the gap coming down and down. So there was action at pretty much every corner. The one car that had too much action was the 88 Mercedes, knocked into two spins. And after the pit stops, it came out with Alessio Picariello at the wheel. It got right onto the tail of number 12 with Martin Rump at the wheel of the Audi. Was fighting with it, but was a lap down, was a slight distraction. But after those pit stops, it was Manuel Metzger in the lead of the race. Martin Rump got close in the number 12 Audi. And also Yuya Sakamoto had a fabulous run in the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari, but they would stay in that position all the way to the end of the race. They had to pick their way through traffic, so the gaps went forwards and backwards. That was a scary moment for Manuel Metzger. Wasn't prepared to take his foot off the throttle. Just there, going past the car, leading the GT4 class, the Kraft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. David Punt, all tail out, but collected it very well. But first to second, in the end, it came down to just half a second at the end of the race, with Martin Rump closing right in at the finish. But a brilliant job there from Manuel Metzger, delighting his teammate Roloff Bruins. 31 cars exploding down the start, finished straight towards turn one. Very, very tidy start by the pole starter Alessio Picariello. He's in the 88 car, but then a tap from blue on silver, and that was Yasemin Yafar being given a dimension-changing knock from the 17 Yokomizo driven Mercedes. Further back on, great battle between the Lamborghinis in the AM class. In the early stages, Ben Porter prevailing from the Vitana Motorsport car, but it wasn't to be that way at the end of the race. And the Birth Racing Project GT4 Mercedes, clearly some contact leading to a car that struggled to get back to the pits, but then in the closing stages of the race, it was the pros making their way forward. The 912 Porsche in the hands of Yuan Bo and being chased very hard by Marco Seefried in the Ferrari. Then on to the final lap, last chance really to make a move. Did he do enough braking? Just enough by wear on tan. Managed to get into the lead in turn one, inside Vutagon into Fuvasak. Then it was side by side. In fact, the Porsche slightly ahead, but he was on the wrong side of the circuit for the next corner. Couldn't produce a sweep around the outside. And again, using experience gain, wear on tan, just doing a really, really good job. And he was going to be able to take it home to victory. There was no way for the Porsche driver to fight back. And at the end, it was 0.7 of a second. That was all it was between first and second place. So fabulous racing in the second of our two rounds in Japan. That was Fuji Speedway. Now, as you can see from the local style bridge over the straight, it's all about Korea here in Korea, and therefore it's all about one man, MG Choi, who also races under the name of Roloff Bruins. Two identities, second in the championship, pitching for glory here on home ground. Let's hear from him.
Can you tell us about your international childhood? You were born here in South Korea. What happened after that?
So I was born here. I grew up in Netherlands. Been there for most of my life, up until 10 years ago. Then I came back here to pursue racing here in Asia. And it's been a crazy period here. I mean, I didn't know anything about racing in Korea. I rolled in, and it's been so far very exciting. I mean, as you can see, like, there are many Korean teams here as well, all looking at us and saying, well, maybe they want to join as well. So it would be great from next year to represent Korea with maybe more cars. So it's fantastic to be back here. It's the first time we're driving actually with the GT3 on this track. So it's very, very exciting stuff here that's going to happen this weekend.
It's a good time for it to be exciting as well, because you've got 4 rounds to go and you're very competitive in the championship.
Yeah, so far we had overall a fantastic run. I mean, in the beginning of the season, how we ended last season and going into this season, we were not too sure like what to expect. But already, like from the first race, we saw we could be very competitive, and yeah, we're really hoping to progress that and to get better and better, and hopefully till Shanghai.
The victory last time out must give you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, also, I mean, we missed a few opportunities, to be honest, in Suzuka especially. Like, we missed a lot of points there, but overall, I think we have the pace to be up there, and we just need to make as less mistakes as possible to go for the championship lead again.
Well, as we can hear, MG Choi, also Roloff Bruins, very, very excited about his Dutch childhood, but even more excited to be here on home ground in Korea. And he's down on the grid with our man, Steve Dawson.
Yes, Bruce, sitting comfortably with our pole sitters. The ideal scenario, isn't it? Driving in your home country and in pole position.
Yeah, it's a fantastic moment. I mean, we couldn't have picked a better moment to score Indigo Racing's first pole position into Blancpain World Challenge Asia.
You had a bit of trouble with track limits in qualifying. You and your teammate went off 3 times. Have you got that sorted out?
Well, when you want to be quick, you need to go on the limit. Sometimes you go a bit over, but that happens. We still got a first row and a second row for both races, so I'm very happy still with it.
Very best of luck today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And I'm sure, being the perfectionist, Roloff will point out that it was his teammate, Manuel Metzger, who was running wide, not Roloff, who kept it between the white lines. But pole position, really important. As you can see, very short blast down to turn 1. Much, much shorter than most tracks. In fact, the long straight is after you've gone through the double left-handers at turn 1 and turn 2. And I think an awful lot of the overtaking is going to be when they do the braking, the uphill braking into turn 3. As you can see, a very busy grid, a very, very hot grid indeed. A few new faces this weekend, constantly changing faces in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia, and it's always interesting to see who'll slot in where. But a driver who's absolutely starring this season, leading on points with his teammate Philippe Hampracht, Stephen, has caught up with Tanat Sathyanthirikul.
Tanat in absolutely great form. Apart from your teammate, your closest challenger is right alongside you. Should be a very exciting run to the first corner.
Yes, I will try to get him on the first lap, of course, but might work out. Might work out, might not, but we'll see. Should be good, should be good, should be good.
You're in P11 tomorrow, so this must be your best chance of a win this weekend.
We never know what happened tomorrow. Anything can happen, you know, in the racing. So we see.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I must say that's been one of the features this year. Tanat Sathyanthirikul, not just quick in the car, but just so composed out of it. And certainly with his teammate, Philippe Hampracht, one of the drivers who lost a lot of his best flying laps through exceeding track limits. He's got a mountain to climb, but these races are an hour long. There is plenty of space at certain points around this circuit for overtaking, so it's not as bad as at some other venues where if you're further down the grid, you really, really struggle. But right now, my thoughts are with everyone down there. We had emergency warnings on all our mobile phone yesterday, simply because the sheer heat. I'm waiting for the graphic to come up shortly, but I would think it's probably about 37 degrees air temperature. Track temperature will be way higher than that, probably getting closer to 60 degrees, I would think, and the humidity is high as well. So here we are, 52% humidity, 50 degrees track temperature, give or take, and 36 degrees air temperature. So I was sort of in the ballpark on some of them, but it's just incredibly sticky. Just to reiterate, 2 one-hour races, one today and one tomorrow. Each driver does around half an hour of racing. The pit window opens after 25 minutes of the 60 minutes available and closes 10 minutes later. It's up to the teams how they cycle their drivers, if they give the first driver, the starting driver, a longer stint, or the second driver. And a lot of these Pro-Am lineups, you put your Pro in for as long as possible. Very much a feature of the Blancpain GT World Challenge is Pro-Am, and a big step forward this year. In the first 2 iterations, the Blancpain Racing Series in Asia, there were a lot of European drivers, but it's now specified every car must have a driver from the Asian countries. And at the opening round, I think we had 62 drivers on the grid and 40-something of them were drivers of Asian origin. So a real sea change. As you can see, the popularity with many people milling around down there on the grid is it's growing all the time. And great to have our first visit to this home of the Korean Grand Prix for 4 years, but having worked his way from the front of the grid down to the GT4 cars at the back, Sunako Jukuchu on pole in the class, along with Steve Dawson.
Yeah, Sunako just taking a chance to cool down here with his fan. A chance for you to wrap up the title this weekend. How do you feel?
It's so difficult, but our team is condition is so good. Maybe toughness race, time management, be careful, and safety drive.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Well, great to hear from Sunako Jukuchu, but worth just pointing out, half a second from top to bottom in GT4, really close. So, Blancpain GT World Challenge, we're in the Asian Series on the right-hand side of the screen, the penultimate round. 5 rounds in the European Series and 7 rounds in the States. And then we will tot up all the points for the nominated drivers across and see who is the top combination in 2019. Personnel starting to clear the grid. The board's being held up just behind the Mercedes safety car. And then we'll see all these cars in their beauty. So let's take a look at the drivers nominated to compete for Mercedes. In the States, it's Colin Brown leading the way. Ryan Dalyell always doing a great job. Lucas Stoltz, Raffaele Marcello, absolutely the top of the tree in Europe. And Roelof Bruins, there he is at the top of the chart in Asia. Jeffrey Lee, 2 wins to his name as well, accruing very useful points indeed. So there are the 12 drivers across the 3 championships from Mercedes. And Ferrari, the other team pitching in drivers in all of those championships. Tony Villander, the flag waver in the American Series. In Europe, Andrea Bertolini, David Perel picking up many, many useful points. And in Asia, Ryo Haryanto, his car's towards the tail of the grid, but Yuya Sakamoto 3rd in the championship. So good points for the drivers. Let's see how they stack up against Mercedes as we get to the end, towards the end of the Blancpain GT World Challenge. Well, it's a sizable lead for Mercedes. We have a Mercedes on the front row, so that's very good news for them indeed. So I think we're just waiting for a further interview from... No, he's not down on the grid. He's been cleared off the grid quite clearly. In fact, you can see the last of the personnel being moved off. That was me being optimistic. So now we can see all 23 runners at last. And look at the heat haze. But whatever heat we're feeling, it's an awful lot less than they're feeling in the cockpits of the car.
Jeffrey Lee's with me. Jeffrey, about 3 seconds slower than the pole sitter, but good chance to get up amongst it today.
Yeah, I managed to get some more pace out of the practice of quality yesterday, because yesterday practice I didn't really find my pace here. I think as the race go on, I can slowly pick up my pace and I'll try to keep out the guys in the front and give a good position to Max.
Very, very hot conditions this weekend. How tough is it?
Yeah, I think it's very hard, but I think we are used to the hot condition in Asia. So.
Good luck, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That was Jeffrey Lee being talked to down there. Just to reiterate, starting not where he wants to be, but way down the order in 13th position. But, of course, his car's on pole for tomorrow's race. So well done, Steve, staying down there in the heat to get the last interviews. I can see you jogging off just by pit wall. Very, very hot indeed. So all set for 1 hour of racing. To go. The formation lap about to start. 23 cars, 18 in GT3, and that car on pole in GT4. That's the BMW Team Studi M4 with Sunako Jukuchu at the wheel, but very, very close, just half a second, covering all of the GT4 runners. The most competitive session in qualifying we have had as yet in 2019. Just shows how the competition is getting closer and closer. So the cars waved off, go around, and the race is due to start in 5 minutes' time. Formation lap will give the drivers a chance to just assess how their tyres are going to be, but it's been a very hot couple of days, a national heat wave with warnings. The population Stay indoors if you possibly can and keep cool. That's a clue as to how much warmer that it is than normal. And for the drivers inside the cars, it's going to be very hot indeed. But for MG Choi, also racing under the name of Roloff Bruins, here he is in 97. His Mercedes on pole for his home race. He's second in the championship. And the car 911, which will be starting outside of the front row, is the championship leader with Tanart Sathya and Thirikul on board. Then David Wyan Chen in the 999 Audi, really going very well. And Anthony Liu, the top Pro-Am runner, he's the AM in that pairing, starts fifth. Yuya Sakamoto, third in the championship in the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari, starts fifth. And Ware on Tan, another Audi at the front end. That was a winner last time out at Fuji. Second of the Thai Racing Stars, Vutigon from Fuvasank will start seventh. And another Porsche alongside from Absolute Racing, Wan Bo. Christina Nielsen in the second of the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, and Piti Birambakti in the bright orange McLaren will start 9th and 10th. Then Alex Au in the best of the Lamborghinis, 11th. And the Prince of Johor, Abdul Ibrahim, will start the 888 Mercedes that will start tomorrow's race right at the front end of the field from 12th on the grid. Jeffrey Lee, his car's on pole tomorrow, but he's starting down in 13th. And Jingzhou Sun in the Tianchi Racing, Absolute Racing, Audi, the 13 will start from 14th. Then David Chipto Biantoro, one of many drivers to ruin his qualifying by going off the circuit or beyond the white lines. He's down in 15th. Jonsabat Asavahami, the top AM runner, will start 16th. His AM rival, Andrew McPherson, 17th. Daniel Au, the last of the Craft Bamboo Racing cars, the last of the GT3 runners. And then we come down to the final three rows of the grid where the GT4 runners will be playing. Sunako Jakuchu took that class pole, but only by the tiniest of margins. 0.1 of a second ahead of Frank Yu, Craft Bamboo Racing, GT4 Mercedes, and then three other Mercedes behind. The best place of those will be Brian Lee for GTO Racing with TTR, Keo Chang in 199, and at the back it will be Ringo Chong in the second of those Team iRace.win Mercedes. So as you can see, many corners for the drivers to snake their way around on this circuit. At certain points it looks relatively narrow, but other points there's plenty of width, and importantly I think that run up to turn 3 is where a lot of jockeying of position is going to happen, and a lot of the passing on this opening lap. Then the back part of the circuit, as you can see here, as the cars work their way around this 5.6, just checking the distance, 5.6 something kilometre circuit, 5.615 kilometre circuit. It's a very long lap. The pole lap was 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 9 seconds, but it's twisty in the middle, and it opens out a little bit, then closes in, and this a final corner, a right-hander that just keeps on going. A little kink onto the start-finish straight, but for all of these drivers it's just a sighting lap, but they're coming by in 2x2 formation, getting ready for the start of the race. Out of the final corner they come. Safety cars pulled off to the side. It's a long hole, but it's a very short start-finish straight. Will it be Roloff Bruins in the Mercedes on the right-hand side of your screen leading into the first corner, or will it be Tanart Sathya and Thirikul? Looks so Sathya and Thirikul, who was really feisty on the grid about maybe taking a move into the opening corner. He's got his nose in front, but he's on the outside line, so quite rightfully he has to yield position. Near contact behind with YN Chen, got a little bit sideways in the 999 Audi. It looks so everyone's got around turn 1, but really the passing is going to come up here into turn 3. It's a rising straight, it's wide, it's very, very long indeed. The Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari getting quite serious as well. Started from 5th on the grid, looks so it's up into 4th. MG Choi's got it all covered on the inside. That's where you want to be, into a hairpin. That Ferrari's looking very, very busy indeed, but YN Chen holding on to 3rd place in behind. We've got Anthony Liu, the leading Pro-Am runner. He's been pushed back from 4th to 5th, but all very tidy indeed. Well done, everyone involved. But now what's happened, suddenly Sathya and Thirikul made the move after the exit of turn 3, giving a little bit of a push from MG Choi. Sakamoto's making his way forward in the Ferrari. Oh, the Indigo Racing Mercedes had to come off the power a little bit there, got on the grass and first, became second, and has now become 3rd. That's not what the local hero wants. He's being pushed very wide indeed by YN Chen. Steve Dawson's made it back here from the grid. I could possibly give him a few seconds to cool down, but I shan't. Fabulous start.
It's a sweaty affair down there. These athletes are going to struggle in these cars for the time that they're on the track, because it's very hot and even more humid than during qualifying.
Well, that really is something. It was horrendous, but Yuya Sakamoto, 5th on the grid. He's still 5th on our time charts. We're only just getting up to the first timing interval, and he's already up into 2nd place, really pushing Tanart Sathya and Thirikul. Tanart has a 6-point championship lead, but with 25 points for a win and 18 for second, all it needs is for those positions to be exchanged, with MG Choi in that 3rd place Mercedes going in front, and it could be as close to all square as possible before we get to Sunday's race. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have 50-something minutes of this race remaining. And an exemplary start from Satya Thirikul. Didn't make it stick at turn 1, couldn't quite do it at turn 3, but got a better exit. And by the time they blasted past the club pits, there's a separate pit lane further around the lap, he was in front. He was on the left-hand side when the track was bending left. However, race start under investigation. It's a relatively standard one, but they're trying to see if anybody got a little ahead of themselves on the rolling start. Did anyone get a jump before the lights went from red to green? I didn't see it. I'll keep an eye on the timing screens. So 1 lap down, Satya Thirikul leading Sakamoto, 0.7 of a second, next to nothing. Roloff Bruins, I'll call him that, and then I'll call him MG Choi at the end of the race, because on the graphic it says Bruins. MG Choi is his chosen racing name, Korean racing name for 2019. But right now, Bruins is in 3rd place, Chen 4th. Bose had a good start in the 912 Porsche up to 5th. And Vucicon Intra Fuvasak has also gained a little bit of ground, well, in fact only 1 position into 6th place. Nielsen 7th, Wear Tan dropped a position down to 8th. Pittibiran back to upper position in the McLaren to 9th, and 666 Lamborghini in the hands of Au up into 10th overall.
We had a word with Jakuchu just before the race started, and he is in 18th spot, so ahead of his competitors in GT4 AM, and well on his way to success this season.
And I'll tell you who was the driver who lost out. He started 4th, 21st at the end of the opening lap, 17 places lost. Unfortunately, that was the car that was best in Pro-Am in qualifying. Anthony Liu, the Chinese racer, has got it all to do all over again. Didn't see the incident, but my money is on it happening somewhere up around turn 3. Just looking, the first 4 runners starting to break clear. Satya Thirikul leading by 0.7 a second at the start of the lap over Sakamoto in the Ferrari. Roloff Bruins in 3rd place, trying to hang on, and a big twitchy moment there for 999 for Yan Chen in the Audi. Got it all back together again, but I think that's a sign of just how hard he's pushing in his quest to stay with the top 3. Yes, you're now starting to see a bit of a gap between 3rd and 4th, a much bigger gap back to Wan Bo in 5th. So for all these drivers, track position with that sort of gap gives them more scope to choose when to make their pit stop.
Yeah, the front 4 just easing their way ahead now, and it'll be a good 4-horse race for the podium, I think. These are early days, though. Still a lot that can happen. Exactly so. And quite a few of these cars, the fastest driver is the one who's going to be doing the second half of the race. And when you've got an all-pro lineup, you've got more scope to keep it good. But if you've got a pro starting and doing well and you hand it to an AM, of course, it can go the other way, and vice versa. But as it is, we've had a place change for 5th. But no, sorry, Wan Bo is still in 5th, and Wear Tan in number 12 has gone ahead of Vucicon Intra Fuvasak, so the second best of the Audis. Should be in the background of our shot any second now. Yeah, the dark Audi in the background, the grey one, is up 1 position. So places only changing in the minor positions, but in fact it was 2 places gained by Wear Tan in the number 12 Audi for Absolute Racing. So he's up to 6th, and let's see how he keeps on moving. Gap between 1st and 2nd between Satya Thirikul and the Ferrari driven by Yuya Sakamoto, 0.925 of a second, so 1/4 of a second gained. And in the background going, I think we'll have track warnings there. That's coming out of the turn 3 hairpin. It was the number 12 Audi. We said Wear Tan gained 2 places on the previous lap. Well, if he does any more like that, he's going to start getting time penalties. Back on the track for now, just on the nose of Vucicon Intra Fuvasak. I don't know if the Audi driver went wide because he was trying to fend off an attack from Intra Fuvasak, or simply took a line that didn't give him the options to get the corner completed. Now he goes through the tight turn 6. That's a corner where many drivers were getting pinged in qualifying, lost their times for exceeding track limits, and then a series of sweeping S's around all the way around the lap down to effectively about turn 16, and it tightens up for the final sequence of 4 corners. In GT4, it's not a 1-horse race, all of them covered by 0.501 of a second in qualifying. Sunaka Chikuchu took class pole, but Frank Yu in the 77 Mercedes is keeping the BMW racer very, very honest indeed. Tucked in behind Brian Lee, Mercedes number 11, then Kyo Chang and Ringo Chong bringing up the rear, but they're very close indeed in GT4, really proving very, very competitive. You mentioned Liu earlier on falling back. He's currently in 16th, but he's had the fastest Sector 1 time of anybody in the field, and looking to build his way up this field there. As I say, currently in 16th now.
Well, that's very, very impressive. He's picked his way past a couple of the AM runners, and really, I don't know how he found the track space to do that. Had to get through the GT4 field. Obviously, could do that very easily. His lap speed should be a good dozen seconds, if not more, faster than theirs, maybe 15 seconds. But this GT4 battle, I'm just so pleased to see how tight it is, because the gold standard at most circuits has been the M4. In fact, fact, looking at that, Daniel Lau is only just in front of them. Chikuchu staying right on his tail, and Liu, Daniel Lau is in that pink livery Mercedes, is now backing the GT4 runners up. It's being he's got a problem, that's why. Has he got a puncture? Just trying to see if that 55 Mercedes has got a puncture. Can't see it on the 3 of the 4 wheels that I've seen. But that is definitely a car on limp home mode. So here is our race battle. It's closed right up. Last time around it was 0.925 of a second. 2/10 have been gained by the Ferrari in second place. Just set the fastest lap of the race in the hands of Yuya Sakamoto. In behind you've got Roloff Bruins, the local hero, tucked in behind. We saw a little twitch from the 999 Audi driver, and Chen has got it all back under control. Wyan Chen running in 4th place. First through to 4th, 2.1 seconds. And 3-second gap back to Wan Bo in the 912 Porsche in 5th, and Wear on Tan. We've seen him run wide out of turn 3. He's hanging on in there in 6th.
Chinese driver Sun has jumped to a couple of places to 13th, but he's going to experience a drive-through penalty. That was after a false start, so he will be waylaid at some stage later on. Okay,
just placed 2 places further down the race order in 14th overall, leading the GT3 AM class for Chonsawat Asavahami. He also had a false start, so drive-through penalty for the 2 of those. Just to reiterate, the 13 Absolute Racing Audi in the hands of Jingsu Sun and Chonsawat Asavahami. Our lead battle, though, where Wyan Chen trying to hang on in the gold, silver and green Audi, but the first 3 just eking their way clear. Tanat Safi and Thirikul, I mean, he wanted to get into the lead. He's trying to be kind to his tyres at the moment. That's what he doesn't want to do in his excitement about trying to pull clear. If anybody's flogging their tyres at the moment, it's Yuya Sakamoto. You can see that Ferrari in second place is being hurled around rather than poured in a fluid motion around the circuit, and I think his flamboyance in the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari is going to see the gap come out. As I say that, he sets the fastest lap of the race and closes in by 1/10 of a second, but we are dealing in small fractions. Roloff Bruins could do nothing about the moment. He's just going to try and hang safe and still behind. So it's Porsche from Ferrari, from Mercedes, from Audi. Just a fantastic spread of manufacturers at the top of the championship. 2.1 seconds from 1st through to 4th. And I say that Wyan Chen maybe has just been slightly cautious in that 4th place. We saw a twitch, I think it was the start of the 2nd lap, but since then, that 999 Audi being driven very smoothly indeed. Now I really feel Wan Bo, there he is in the 912 Porsche from Absolute Racing, is coming under increasing pressure from Wear on Tan. Wear on had a 2nd and a 1st last time out at Fuji Speedway. Fancies more of the same. Has calmed down. We saw him have the wild moment out of the infield hairpin a few laps ago, but he's keeping it between the white lines, putting the pressure on the Chinese racer.
A little bit of debris there has fallen off one of the cars and keeps getting brushed up by these tyres. There it is. You can just see it in the background.
Just looked like a chunk of rubber, but obviously we had Daniel Au in the 3rd of the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes coming in to make a pit stop. And when he's fallen to the back of the field, he's not listed to having made a pit stop. Jingsu Sun has served his drive-through penalty, as has Asavahami. They served those ones to jump start as soon as they possibly could. BT Biren back to chasing Christina Nielsen. Nielsen in the 99 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, and again they corner in a very different fashion. Certainly BT Biren back to much the smoother of the 2 there in that orange McLaren. 8th and 9th positions overall. Anthony Liu fell down to, what was it? We saw him down among the GT4 runners. He's worked his way. He started 4th, down to about 22nd position. He's up to 12th. Just banged in the fastest first sector of anyone. He was lapping faster than everybody but the top 4 or 5 cars last time round. And he's got traffic, so he's a busy driver down there.
Going really well, though, isn't he? I must say. Bruins has registered the quickest time in Sector 2, so it'll be interesting to see what he does as he comes through the final sector. Currently in 3rd, then. 4/10 behind Sakamoto in 2nd.
And just had a look at the GT4 battle. Suddenly Sanaka Chikuchu has got an advantage. Frank Yu seems to have fallen back into the grasp of Brian Lee and Ko Chang. Yeah, tight indeed. But this is the race-leading quartet. Still Tanat Safi and Thirikul just over half a second clear. And no sooner had Sakamoto set the fastest lap of the race than it was toppled by 0.08 of a second by Bruin, tucked in behind. The top 3 covered by 1 second, or to be absolutely picky, 0.976 of a second, and in behind another 1.5 back, thereabouts. Wyan Chen trying to hold on in his Audi from Tianchi Racing, but 1st to 2nd, I sort of thought it was going to go the other way, Steve. I thought the smooth approach from the race leader, Tanat Safi and Thirikul, the championship leader, was going to be enough. But Yuya Sakamoto happy to throw the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari around. Now is he going to settle down? Let's just watch the sequence again. The Porsche just looks better balanced, less loose, I think you could say, than the Ferrari. And a loose race car does one thing. A, it puts the driver at risk of spinning off. B, it consumes its tyres. So I'd say right now Sakamoto needs to just start driving. He's got the pressure on. He just maybe needs to come back a little bit. He's still got plenty of time, another dozen minutes or so until the pit window opens.
Satyen Tirakel and his teammate Philip Hamprecht will be quite happy if Sakamoto can keep the pressure up, as long as they don't overtake them, of course, because any gap between themselves and Bruins in third will mean that they're better off in the Drivers' Championship. So Sakamoto doing a lot of good for the leader at the moment, as long as he can stay ahead of it.
Oh, and another big switch there. He got it slightly. He's very, very quick to readjust. And Sakamoto certainly had to do that. The tail wanted to come around towards the left. He wanted the car to go to the right, and so a little negotiation had to be concluded. Now the GT4 battle slightly broken up when we last saw it by a couple of the drivers having to come back through in the GT3 class who served those drive-through penalties. Johnsonbad Azavahami, we saw his black Lamborghini working his way through, and finally Jukuchu got an advantage. But now Frank Yu in the 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes is coming right back at him, and Brian Lee as well. Then a very small gap back to Keo Chang and Ringo Chong, but well, particularly to Keo Chang. Ringo Chong a little bit further down the order, but it's good to see that GT4 battle coming right down. Frank Yu is just, he loves his racing. It's his hobby, it's not his career. He's got a perfectly good career, thank you very much, with architecture and the construction business, and the fruits of those are the Craft Bamboo Racing team, and a driver who always, doesn't seem to matter what happens, has a smile on his face, but generally he's smiling down from the podium, so it's a good thing.
He's taking these sweeping corners very nice and smoothly, I must say.
Yeah, the real key in a GT4 car, less powerful, less aerodynamic, you keep that car smooth. Put it sideways, it takes longer to crank it up again. So all very well balanced indeed. So let's just, suddenly fastest lap of the race is indeed in the hands of Anthony Liu. I saw him in the background of a shot, and sadly, background it will be. He's 23 seconds down, having fallen to the tail, not just of the GT3 class, almost the tail of the race, somewhere around the opening lap. But we will look forward and look out for the progress of the 910 Porsche as it fights its way forward. A Chinese racing team, Chinese racing driver. That's JRM and Anthony Liu. Now, here is the 910 car, and his next target, well, that's the Prince of Johor, Jeffrey Ibrahim, basically outfoxed, forced to brake as late as he wanted, and that was sadly a little later than he should have been doing. So the 888 Mercedes is with Jeffrey Ibrahim, the Prince of Johor, on board. Was 11th, is now 12th, but such is the pace of the black, white and red JRM Porsche, that's not surprising.
Penalty for false start. Car H1 drive-through penalty for false start.
Well, there is the third driver to be nominated, but the first points leader, and that's the points leader in GT4, Sunako Jukuchu, sitting on a lead of, well, not even a second, and now the drive-through penalty is going to drop him right to the back, so it's going to be concentration time for Jukuchu, BMW Team Studi, and Takayuki Kinoshita, who will be taking over for the second part of the race. We're not at pit window opening, but he will be the third car into the pits. It does seem that we saw the 55 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes limping around. It hasn't made a pit stop, but is last overall, but is now starting to pick up his pace, but really off, way off where he should be. So Daniel Lau having a bit of a struggle. Not even ahead of any of the GT4 runners. This looks like a better lap, the last one for Satyen Tirakel. Bang, fastest lap of the race. Oh, we've had a place change. Now, we saw him run wide of the circuit. We've got Wear on Tan in the number 12 Absolute Racing Audi coming into the background of our shot. You can see he's got ahead of the black Porsche with the green wings. That means he's past Wanbo. He's up into 5th overall, and as soon as he got freed, he set a lap that was not only 0.6 of a second faster than Wanbo's, but also faster than anybody else. The fastest lap of the race. So look out for the number 12 Audi. Second and first the last two races. That was at Fuji Speedway. And it's a very strong driver lineup. This isn't a Pro-Am, it's a pro liner. You can see the gap to the best place of the Audi. It's just going off the bottom of the screen. Here comes the chasing Wear on Tan. He's got Martin Rump as his teammate, so they're guaranteed to be right on the pace all the way through to the checkered flag.
They'll have to rack up a few more fastest laps, though, to catch up with Chen. The gap currently 4.5 seconds just about. So plenty of clean air, though, to work his way up there.
Yep. How sweet are his tyres, we will find out, but well, he's certainly able to crank that car where he wants it. Just to reiterate, he's 4.4 seconds down on the race leader, Penalties, Sati and Thirigul, so he's not going to hand the car over unless something happens from any higher than 5th overall. But he's and we've got a problem for 88. Well, you can see there's been front body contact, and that was a man that you've cursed. You spoke to him on the grid, Jeffrey Lee. This is the car that's starting from pole for tomorrow, but unfortunately there has been contact. Last time around he was very close to, well, he wasn't, he's dropped an awful lot of time. I don't know who he might have hit. He was, the next car up the road was about a dozen seconds clear, unless he's contacted the back of the Ferrari of David Chipto Bientoro. But for Jeffrey Lee in the Craft Bamboo Racing 88 Mercedes, it's a limp around to the pits.
Yeah, be lucky if he can get to the pits without puncturing his front left. He may have punctured it already, actually.
He may well have done, or he may have left enough debris to give a puncture to someone else. And the person on the move now is Roloff Bruins. We've seen him. He was sort of close to the tail of the Ferrari of Yuya Sakamoto, but he just started really taking a serious look towards the end of the lap. Didn't quite make it stick, but that intent was clear for all to see. Almost got alongside. First four still sitting comfortably clear of Wear on Tan, and Wear on Tan fastest lap again last time around. So looking very handy. He's 4.4 seconds down, so he keeps on chipping away there. Now it's suddenly getting very, very busy. This is the battle for just the tail end of the top 10. Christina Nielsen in 8th in the green Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, then Piti Bhirombhakti in the McLaren, and the 666 Lamborghini. It's been there or thereabouts on this grouping, but decided 3 is better than 2, and that's Alex Likkerau. The white Lamborghini with the yellow and blue stripes. Positions aren't changing, but it's closing up, and the car catching all of them is the black and white Porsche in the background. Anthony Liu, he's just set the fastest lap of the race again. And who might be in trouble? Well, when you're running last in the race, you don't want a second warning for exceeding track limits, but that's Daniel Lau, so any more of that will serve. Penalties will start being heaped on him, but that will hardly make his race result get any worse. Anthony Liu, bang, fastest lap of the race, does it again, has just put in the fastest first sector of anyone. Chris van der Drift would have had his head in his hands in the pits when this car came round next to stone last at the end of the opening lap, but it's been a storming performance. Points go down to 10th position, he's 11th. Next target, nearly 5 seconds up the track, is that Lamborghini we were just looking at, the white one from Vincenzo Sospiri Motorsport. This is a car that's really looking super well balanced in the hands of Anthony Liu. Never saw what happened on that opening lap, but certainly having started 4th as the leading Pro-Am runner, you expected him to be there or thereabouts, or certainly in the top 6 at the end of the opening lap, but not down towards the tail of the field.
You mentioned Christina Nielsen a few moments ago. She started, what, 9th, 10th? She's worked her way up to 8th.
Effectively, she's gained 1 position, and that pretty much is because of Anthony Liu going in the opposite direction, down towards the tail of the field, but she's being made to work very, very hard indeed. And as you can see, plenty of width for drivers to start considering their moves. Now we're getting into the traffic, and the driver running last, well, in fact, should have just passed, it's Sunaka Chikucha. He served that drive-through penalty. He's just come back onto the track, but they're going to have Daniel Lau, who's struggling, Craft Bamboo Racing. You can see them turning into turn 1 with his Mercedes just in front of them, but for Penalties, Sati and Thirigul, almost precisely a second clear in the lead of the race of Yuya Sakamoto. Roloff Bruins tucked him behind, just 0.4 of a second down. It's going to be very, very interesting as they come up onto the traffic. Let's see how it goes. New fastest lap of the race, Anthony Liu, 2 minutes 10.3, which trumps Wear on Tan's 2 minutes 10.5, just set a few moments earlier. So, past the first or the last of the GT4 runners they go, or the last one that hasn't served a drive-through penalty. First 3 cars, no problem at all. They just go past the club straight. That's turns 4, 5, and they'll come up to turn 6. This is a corner where many, many drivers got pinged for exceeding track limits. There's that battle. 8th, 9th, and 10th. Nielsen, Bhirombhakti, and Au, and in behind Alex Au is Anthony Liu, just catching all of them very quickly. The flash of his Porsche at the bottom of the image.
Yeah, it's a good battle this for 8th with Christina in front.
It's going to be broken up with Anthony Liu coming through. He's way quicker than they are.
He'll have to weave his way through. He's hoping to get a word with Christina earlier on the grid. We'll see if we can perhaps do that tomorrow. Another race for you on the Sunday. 2 races this weekend before we head into our final weekend.
Battles all the way down the field. 13, Jingsu Sun has moved ahead of 88, Jeffrey Lee. Both had their problems. Jingsu Sun judged to have got the start wrong. He served a drive-through penalty, and of course the big problem for the 88 Mercedes, a car that has been a race winner this year, was that front body contact for Jeffrey Lee. Are there going to be any changes before the pit window opens? It opens in 3 minutes' time. First to third covered by 0.9 of a second. It's really coming down. 0.58 of a second from first to second, from Sathian Thirikul to Sakamoto. Then Bruins just a third of a second down in third overall. You can see the intent, and I really do feel if you got past the Ferrari, he is quicker. And then suddenly what's happening behind? We've got Wai-An Chen falling away in the 999 Audi and catching him. Let's check lap times. Yeah, catching him by half a second a lap is the blue Audi in the background, very background of the shot, with Wai-Ron Tan at the wheel. The fifth place won't become fourth by the pit stops, but he's getting closer and closer. The GT4 battle, worth pointing out that we've seen Frank Yu leading the way there in the 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, 18th overall, but leading the GT4 class from Brian Lee, just over a second between them. And it didn't take long. Anthony Liu just coming up into that infield hairpin, the 910 Porsche up into 11th place a while ago, but has got a trio of cars ahead of him. He's going to stay out, I think, to try and pass them before the pit stops, or will he change at the earliest opportunity to Chris van der Drift? Oh, car 128 has attracted the attention again. Jump start for Chonsuat Asabahami. Just had a second warning for exceeding track limits. Black and white flag being displayed. There he is. Staying between the... oh, no, he's going to be off the circuit there. That was just simply a mistake rather than trying to gain an advantage. Hit the curb on the inside, spat the car to the outside. So proving to be a little bit of a messy race, and he's already had the drive-through penalty, which is why he's second in the AM class, with Andrew McPherson leading the way in the AMAC Motorsport Lamborghini. It's an all Lamborghini battle in the GT3 AM class, and this Thai racer's just getting a little bit wrong today, just being a little bit caught out. Our first three with the Korean hero at the back of the grouping. Roloff Bruins racing as under the name MG Choi as well this year, hoping a change to a full-on Korean name would give him championship glory. Well, it's got him up to second place overall, and as he said before the start of the race, it was all starting to go right at the end of last year. Bagged that first win, and 2 wins this season have really put him on track. Second in the championship, with victory in the first of 2 races at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand, and also victory in the opening one of the pair of races at Fuji. A second covering the top 3. Bits of rubber, bits of debris being flung up into the air as they do the braking into the turn 3 hairpin. As you can see, a little rise and a crest. MG Choi hitting the curbs on the inside, getting a bit bounced around there. Background of the shot, 4th and 5th getting closer and closer to each other, if you will. Wai-An Chen in the 999 Audi from Tianchi Racing being caught hand over fist by Wai-Ron Tan. Here comes Wai-Ron in the second of those 2 Audis, number 12. And then suddenly this battle is going to be very, very tight indeed. Frank Hughes stays out of the way of his sister car. He's running in GT4, and he's let the car with a similar livery, 99, Christina Nielsen, go past. And here's a challenge in behind. It's still Nielsen just ahead of Piti Bhirombhakdi. He's going to run out of road on the outside. We'll have to come off the throttle, but Bhirombhakdi in the McLaren gave her space. Hasn't enough space to cut back around. But in behind, their 3-way battle has become a 4-way battle, because Alex Au has got Anthony Liu with him. No, he hasn't. He's got Anthony Liu past him. So the 910 Porsche up into the points. The pit window's been open for about 45 seconds or so. No visitors at the front end. Yes, in fact, we've got a couple in. Jingsu's son has come in to make his second pit visit, but he's been in already. That's for a drive-through penalty, so he's just trying to hand over at the earliest opportunity to Frankie Chen Kong Fu and see where they can go from there. And then round goes Christina Nielsen. It was getting close. 2 positions, 3 position lost by the Dane. And the Piti Bhirombhakdi in behind has also lost 2 positions. So up goes Anthony Liu, started the lap 11th. He's up to 8th. It's been a good return for him, and that was an assist, if you will. Let's take a look. Christina Nielsen minding her own business. Piti Bhirombhakdi coming up the inside, up the inside, up the inside. Christina turns into the corner as she had to. Nowhere else to go. So I'm afraid it was the Thai racer who looked for a bit of complicity and didn't get any at all. Nielsen trying to pick up the pace, coming in, quite possibly got a puncture. So very unfortunate for the Dane. And this is the second pit visit for Jingsu Sun. As we said, the first for a drive-through penalty, has to stay stationary for a certain amount of time, waiting to get that going again. Had to move it because the sister car, number 12, diving in from 5th place overall. Here comes Frank Yu in from the lead of the GT4 class. And as he does so, Brian Lee will assume that class lead, the GT4 class lead in the GTO Racing Mercedes. He's stayed out on the circuit. Also, Keo Chang has stayed out as well in the better placed of the two Team iRace.win Mercedes. Now the pit lane, a very busy and a very, very hot place indeed. I can't stress how unpleasant it is if you're wearing race suit, helmet, gloves. It's a very, very hot and humid pit lane. So pit stops will soon all be done, but the top handful of runners have not come in. So Tanart Sathian Thirikul hasn't come in. Yuya Sakamoto has from 2nd place. That promotes Roloff Bruins into 2nd overall. Wan Bo also issued coming to the pits, but Sakamoto and YN Chen came into the pits. There goes Chonsawat Asafahami's car back into the race, now in the hands of Akihiro Asai. All looking pretty tidy down the pit lane. The Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari has lost position because the 999 Audi was behind it in the first into the race and emerges in front. Rahel Frey at the wheel of the Audi. And Marcos Gomez, multi-title Brazilian stock car racer, no stranger to racing Ferraris though, been racing them in the States this year. He's joined to take over the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari this weekend. Had hoped to go back out into what would have been 2nd or 3rd position, but already he's been jumped. So Rahel Frey has moved ahead. A better pit stop. They do have to be stationary for a minimum amount of time, and let's hope both have adhered to that, but certainly a place change. First two in the championship on the road in that same order. 1.2 seconds between them last time around. 13 laps on the board. It's Tanart Sathian Thirikul who, part way around the opening lap, made that move from 2nd to go past the pole starting Indigo Racing Mercedes, and he is maybe coming in this time around. Here comes the Trouble 55 Mercedes that was running at the very tail of the field. Melvin Moe has just taken that over, going onto the track all over again. Traffic can be the enemy of a driver leading a race. But for Tanart Sathian Thirikul going past, that's not the main pit lane, that's the secondary pit lane. He's in behind the McLaren. Now with Kei Tasawa on its out lap. Hopefully not make any mistakes on cooler tyres. Driver not yet in the groove, just trying to find his form, get up to full racing speed, but as long as he doesn't do anything untoward, he shouldn't be laying Tanart Sathian Thirikul. If anything, Roloff Bruins seems to just fallen back very slightly. Let's look at the next timing interval. Yeah, 1/10 of a second or so. It's funny, it's just a tiny amount of time, but it does make a visual difference. Certainly Kei Tasawa doing a very, very good job in that McLaren. Doesn't appear to be holding up the race leader. For Tanart Sathian Thirikul, yeah, he's not catching the McLaren, notably in the race leading 911 Porsche. There's the sister car, 912, onto the circuit. And that's now in the hands of Liu Yihong Li. And a driver who's setting a blazing time, yet to have his name come onto the screen, is Marcos Gomez, said new on board this championship. The car's on the outlap, that's the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari that was running 2nd. He just banged in the fastest 2nd sector time, the fastest 3rd sector time. Now he's right on the tail. The car that I'm still slightly concerned, is the pit stop going to be under investigation because the Ferrari was about 5 seconds up the road before the pit stop, so no, about 2.5 actually, because the 999 Audi was a little bit further back, but there it is, running in front, but certainly being caught hand over fist by Marcos Gomez, who's really throwing it around and almost collecting the tail of Rahel Frey's Audi. But we'll see those positions change, will we, fairly soon. Certainly in terms of pace, you'd expect Marcos Gomez to be quicker than Rahel Frey, but he's new to the team, not new to the car, has been racing one of the States, but in from the lead of the race. Tanart Sathian Thirikul out, still Now into the lead of the race is the local hero, MG Choi, leading the way in the Indigo Racing Mercedes. But will he be able to have a slick pit stop and find any form of advantage, any chance to get ahead of the 911 Porsche? So Philipp Hamprecht waiting to take that over. Anthony Liu in the 910 Porsche. But for that mishap on the opening lap, you wonder where he'd be placed. Yes, the others have almost all made a pit stop. He's stayed out, but he's worked his way from penultimate position, 22nd position after stumbles early on the opening lap. He's up to 3rd overall. In fact, if he doesn't pit on the pit stop window, he could do, it's a long lap here, it's 2 and a bit minutes, so he could do one more lap. That might put him in the timing screen lead of the race, not the realistic one. Oh, Frankie Chen Kong Fu just put in by far the quickest lap of the race. He's under 2 minutes 10. 2 minutes 10 for a lap. That is very quick indeed. His car is listed in 14th at the moment. With a few more people owing a pit stop, he should get into the top 10. So just look out for that number 13 Audi. Don't forget that was one of 2 GT3 runners that was called in for a starting infringement, served a drive-through penalty. So getting into the top 10 is going to be a major achievement. But Frankie Chen Kong Fu, quickest out there? Well, no longer, because Martin Rump has taken over the sister car, the sister Absolute Racing Audi, and has just put in an even quicker time. And as I speak, who's quicker still? It's Frederick Schandorf, just taken over the number 666 Lamborghini for Vincenzo Motorsport. 2 minutes 9.3. Wow, some really, really impressive times. But right now, Philipp Hamprecht leading the grouping, but will he still be in the lead? Because Roloff Bruins, MG Choi, if you will, yet to make it. Well, he's now just in the pits. How quick is his pit stop going to be? Is that 911 Porsche still going to be in the lead of the race with its second driver? When the second driver emerges for Indigo Racing, that second driver is Manuel Metzger. He's already won this season with Roloff Bruins. Can he do it all over again today? To win on home ground would be massive, and it will also put them in to the very sharp end of the field. The second in the championship coming here, started this race only 6 points down. Talking of Tanart Satin Thirical, our man Steve Dawson has caught him. Let's hear from the driver who turned second into first.
Yeah, Tanart, first of all, just tell me how the start went for you.
I tried something that I think I would. Well, I tried to go around the outside, which didn't work in the first corner, but then I tried again in the at the back hairpin. It kind of worked. We touched a little bit, but then I managed to pass him in the first lap. And tried to hold the lead as far as possible, but it didn't quite work out. And then we see. I did my part, and then we see.
You and Philip looking very good in the Drivers' Championship. If you could stay ahead today.
Yeah, would be mega, but we see.
All right, well done today. Thank you.
Thank you.
A really, really impressive run. I'd be interested to see the size of the car. He said we touched a little. Whenever the driver who's coming through says a little, it might be a little more, but I see no damage on the Indigo Racing Mercedes. So it looks as though has enough been done by the 911 crew to hold on to the lead of the race. Well, it certainly has, because there it is in shot, and in the background, some distance further back, is the Indigo Racing.
666 drive-through penalty, speeding in the pit lane. Car 666 drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
That's very unfortunate for Frederick Schandorf. Don't know if it was him. He's in 8th place overall at the moment, or if it was his teammate Alex Al. But what I can tell you, who got that time, drive-through penalty, takes them out of the top 10. They're 8th. They're not going to be there for long. And we certainly can see now the visual that Manuel Metzger did not manage to steal an advantage after some strong in-laps from Roloff Bruins. In fact, it's gone the other way. And so that 911 Porsche that we heard from Tanart Sathi and Thirical, he did a brilliant opening stint, took that lead coming out of turn 3 on the opening lap, and is still in the lead now, this time in the hands of Philipp Hamprecht. Marcos Gomez, new to the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari team, has already picked his way past Rahel Frey. And that should put him into 3rd place. The car was 2nd before the pit stops, but certainly the 999 Audi team did something spectacularly quick. Pit window now closed, been closed for almost a minute. Everybody has made their stops. 3 cars have served drive-through penalties. Just to reiterate, that's car number 13, now in the hands of Frankie Chen Kong Fu, has been setting some of the very quickest laps of the race, but it's all changed. The driver who's 11th on the timing screens, the 888 Mercedes, now in the hands of Flying Kiwi, Shane Van Gisbergen, 2 minutes 8.643. He's a good half second quicker than the best of the rest, so that's a car that's clearly going to get into the top 10. He's got to gain 6 or 7 seconds to catch Keita Sawa in the McLaren, but at that pace he can do just that. There it is, fastest car on the track. We saw a little moment when Anthony Liu was picking his way past Jeffrey Ibrahim in the opening stint of the race, but now in the hands of Shane van Gisbergen, the touring car, great from New Zealand. It is absolutely flying. Just outside the top 10, but he's cracking in some really quick times. So is the driver who started right down towards the tail of the field, the number 75 Ferrari. I'll come back to that because Steve has been quick in the pits and he's caught up with Roloff Bruins.
Yeah, Roloff is with me. It looks hard work out there, Roloff. You're very tired, are you?
Well, I mean, we had a good start, but on the long straight, we can't keep those Porsches behind us. We just simply don't have the straight line speed for it. So once you're behind, like, it's really difficult to get close and to make a move.
So what are your best hopes now for the second part of this race?
I don't know. I mean, it will be an endurance kind of event, so hopefully Manuel can close the gap to 9-11 and then hopefully make a move.
Go get a drink of water.
Cheers.
So that's Roloff Bruins, as you saw on the belt on his overalls. He races this year with the name MG Choi. Sorry to keep confusing you, but timing screen says one thing. But what we can tell you, that's his car, 97, the Indigo Racing Mercedes. And Manuel Metzger really starting to hurl it around. The tall German pushing and shoving that Mercedes. But interesting point from Roloff there about the straight line speed of the Porsches, and you could see that the Porsche with Tanat Satyanthirakul went past him on the exit of turn 3, or tried to pull alongside and was ahead by the time they got up to the next hairpin at turn 4. Job done, into the lead of the race. Thereafter went no further clear. Don't forget, just before the pit stop started, under a second covering the top 3 cars. And the Ferrari that was in second place fell to 4th place during the pit stop sequence, is now back up to 3rd in the hands of Marcos Gomez, and putting in some very quick times indeed. But we saw fleetingly the 888 Mercedes, that's the fastest of all. What's happening in GT4? This is happening in GT4. The blue Mercedes from GTO Racing leading the race, but certainly not got the form. Tony Fong not as quick as the challenge from 77, and that's Richard Wee having his first outing of this year in the championship, and he puts the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes into the lead of the class. In the background of the shot you can see Setiawan Santoso, and the Indonesian racer who's really finding his form, and he may yet close, and yet he's got company as well, because tucked in behind, sorry, that's Joe Chi, and then behind should be Setiawan
Car
Santoso.
6-1 drive-through penalty for incident at turn 10. Car 6-1 drive-through penalty for incident at turn 10.
Well, the incident of which we've just heard there, we saw it on screen. Christina Nielsen, Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, being given a thump by Piti Birimbakti, and the driver who will have to serve the drive-through penalty in the McLaren now is the driver in the second stint of the race, that's Keita Sawa, but running in 10th position, so they can throw that one out of the window. So that means Shane van Gisbergen, even without catching it, will finally get up into the points, and we will watch with interest through the remainder of the race to see how high he can go. Richard Wee leading GT4, tucked in behind number 11 Tony Fong, catching all of them, just making it look easy at the moment. Joe Chi looks like he's sweeping past as well. Change of position, you can see the 199 car Mercedes going very well indeed. So Tony Fong had no answers. Tony Fong from Hong Kong, and his next challenge will be Setiawan Santoso, who I would presume on this pace will pass him as well, and he's going to have to go the long way around. But you can see the second of the two iRace.win Mercedes, that's the first place, then in second in the class, the 199 car, but the second one with the yellow bonnet where there's green on the sister car, Setiawan Santoso. It's just a matter of when, not if. And just looking at their lap times, these three, well, Santosa is the fastest the GT4 runners out on the circuit last time around, and the pace is being matched by Takayuki Kinoshita, but just worth pointing out that BMW that started on the glass pole had to serve a drive-through penalty, and as a consequence out of the mix, 20 plus seconds behind Santoso. Tony Fong hanging on, but well, he's holding a line. Now 61 drive-through penalty, and let's see what happens, because I'm going to show you a replay of what happened with the McLaren assaulting Christina Nielsen's Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. So here's a look. Christina leaves the door slightly open, up the inside, but no chance of getting his braking done. We couldn't turn in either. Interesting though, the background of the shot, the 910 Porsche just coming through, and that's just being given a stop-go penalty. That was the car that Anthony Liu had a moment on the opening lap, fell to the very tail of the field, got to the tail of the top end, top 10. That incident gave him 8th place, but less than a mandatory pit stop time before Chris van der Drift got going. Chris running 6th at the moment in the 910 Porsche. But suddenly that's all going horribly wrong. But look how Manuel Metzger has caught right off the tail of Philipp Hamprecht, used a bit of the GT4 traffic. And we heard from his teammate Roloff Bruins in a straight line. They can't live with the Porsches, but the best thing is to get in the slipstream. So out of turn 3 they go. This was the straight on which the 911 came ahead of the 97 on at the opening lap to take the lead. Again, just had enough speed up the straight, but Manuel Metzger has rolled the dice early. Oh, he's lost. Oh no, big loss out there for Philipp Hamprecht. The lead has been taken from him. Oh dear, Richard Wee had nowhere else to go, and unfortunately for Hamprecht, he guessed the wrong way. Thought there was going to be a gap on the inside. It looks like it was, and it suddenly closed. The charging Manuel Metzger has gone ahead of Philipp Hamprecht. Now, let's see, we've got 17 and 3/4 minutes left. Here's a replay. Look, it's sort of okay as long as the Mercedes keeps going to the... No, it's not gone enough, and instead of going for contact, or being presented with contact, Philipp Hamprecht had to come off the power. That means if they finish as they are, the championship battle will be squeezed right down. So that all the hard work by Tennant, Sathi and Thirikul to go from 2nd to 1st on the opening lap and lead all the way is being undone. Looking now at Rahel Frey, really great run for the Swiss racer. She's flying in 4th place overall. Can't match the pace of Marcus Gomez. In fact, who can match the pace of Gomez? Because Gomez is lapping faster than the first 2. There's the Mercedes now in the lead of the race. Manuel Metzger... tight line, not such a tight line. Well, it looks like Manuel Metzger, I said he looked attacking. He's wringing the neck of his Pirelli tyres, trying to get every bit of performance out of them. He wouldn't have expected to get the lead as easily as he did. There was a bit of an assist, a fumble if you will, but Richard Wee did have to place his car somewhere and didn't leave the gap that Philipp Hamprecht hoped for. But look, the Ferrari's caught right on the tail of Hamprecht's Porsche. Let's look at their respective lap speeds. Well, on that last lap, here's the story. 2 minutes 10.1 seconds for Metzger. 2 minutes 10.1, sorry, 2 seconds for Metzger. 2 minutes 10.1 for Gomez. Hamprecht, 2 minutes 13.8. That tells the story in itself. Can he wind it all back again? Let's see, those graphics also tell the story. I'm just looking to see if are there any flat spots on the tyres of Philipp Hamprecht. Not that you can see them, but sometimes you can see extra bouncing, but it is quite a lumpy, bumpy circuit. Now here's a story possibly unfurling. 97, that's our race-leading car. 911, the car in 2nd place. And 912, which is in the hands of Liu Yihong Li in 5th place. That's the 912 Porsche. Warning about exceeding track limits at turn 6. They've all got a quarter of an hour remaining in this race. Any more slides over the white line and they can start getting serious punishment. They've got the warning, all on first warning. So whatever went wrong, the gap came right down. I think it was GT4 traffic. I think they cost, early in the lap, they cost the Espoir leader, Philipp Hamprecht, and then big time we saw Richard Wee just getting his car in the way. Hamprecht lost momentum, lost position, lost the lead, catching both of them. Marcus Gomez as well in 3rd place. The Hub Autocorsa Ferrari pressing on. So the top 3 cars in the championship, the top 3 cars in the race. Shane van Gisbergen up to 9th place overall. Of course, Frederick Schandorf had to come in and serve that drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane, or his car speeding in the pit lane. That means van Gisbergen has, well, let's see where he can go. 918 Porsche is the next car up the track in 8th place overall. Running really all on its own, leading the GT3 AM class. Looking very good for Ben Porter, who had such a strong run at Fuji Speedway. Mixed it with the top guns at the front end of the field. Certainly did not look out of place. How well's he lapping at the moment? 2 minutes 13. It's the fastest car. 2 minutes. We've had some cars in the 2 minutes 8s. In fact, the last. Just looking for Portis. Yeah, very close. That car's best pace at the moment. Just the 2 wins in class. So it's heading for its 3rd so far this year. AMAC Motorsport, strong supporters of the championship, Andrew McPherson's team. AMAC is the name, IMAC is the name on the hood. So Manuel Metzger 2.4 seconds. The good little battle we're looking at is the 918 Porsche Alexander Imperatori. Have to look a bit further down the track. Here comes the 888 Racing Mercedes. As you can see, really quite a gap between them. Nearly 7 seconds. He's got past the GT4 traffic though. Richard Wee still leading that class, but Setiawan Santoso I actually really fancy for taking GT4 on as the Indonesian racer, getting better and better. He's 1.5 seconds down on Richard Wee. Both cars, of course, being GT4 cars, picked off very easily indeed by Shane van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen, the fastest driver on track at the moment. Martin Rump going well, a couple of positions ahead of him in the number 12 Absolute Racing Audi. It must be said, though, that Manuel Metzger seems to have the measure of all behind. He's dropping Philippe Hamprecht 2.4 seconds at the start of the lap. He's gained, I'd say, almost half a second. And yet this lap isn't even complete. So he's stretching away from Philippe Hamprecht, who's got lots of company. Marcus Gomez in the Hub Autocorsa Ferrari right on his tail. Van der Drift working really, really hard in the 910 car. The Porsche there from JRM Motorsport. Served that second visit to the pits. So really you'd have to say that while he comes across the GT third place car in the GT4 class, didn't delay him too much. It's going to be a mountain to climb for Van der Drift to end up back in the points. He's got as high as 6th, but that drive-through penalty, in fact it was a 10-second stop and go, unless my memory's playing tricks on me. We'll see him dropping down the order. And leading the way in GT4, Richard Wee, we saw him interrupt the race overall lead. Not much he could do about that, but he's sitting on a decent lead. In fact, he's gone out. He's actually increased slightly, but it's only 1.3 seconds. The reason I suddenly thought it was a decent lead was just out of the background of the shot was the chasing Setiawan Santoso. But there you can see GT4 class leader Richard Wee in the background. How far behind him now? Setiawan Santoso, yeah, has gone out a bit. He gained 7/10 of a second. It's 2.1 seconds, the advantage for Craft Bamboo Racing at the moment. So, doing the maths, 25 points for race victory, 18 points for second place, therefore a gap of 7 points. What was the gap between first and second in the championship? 6 points. So if Manuel Metzger can go on to win this race, they will take a championship lead, or Choi will take a championship lead of 1 point over the pairing of Philippe Hamprecht and Tanat Satyanthirakul. Of course, Manuel Metzger's only done a handful of races, has been successful, but he hasn't been here all year, so he's not at the sharp end of the championship. But his Korean teammate most certainly is. Roloff Bruins, aka MG Choi, their car leading the race. Their car stretching clear, 3.2 seconds further ahead. I said it would go out by half a second. It went out for maybe slightly more. Marcus Gomez still all over the tail of Hamprecht, but it's the Indigo Racing Mercedes. Solite sponsorship on board. Many sponsors guests this weekend here occupying the suites, and they've got sweet success to look at, because the clock is counting down, just over 10 minutes remaining. The second and third you can see dropping back all the time. Still the Porsche of Hamprecht in second place, and Marcos Gomez, welcome to the championship, looking for a podium at his first attempt. In the background, Rahel Frey still holding on to fourth place overall in the 912 Porsche, tucked in behind Liu Yi-Hong Lee. Then comes Martin Rump, and I fancy his Rump quicker. Well, the fastest driver out there, you don't have to look far, is Shane van Gisbergen, 8th and closing all the time. I don't think he's going to be able to catch the 918 Porsche to get any higher than 8th, but fastest lap, 2 minutes 8.4. A lot of drivers would have given their right arm to get that in qualifying.
Most of them have given the equivalent of weight in their right arm. They've lost a lot of perspiration, a lot of fluids during this race. Bruce, I'm very grateful to the drivers that spoke to us, because they all look absolutely spent when they came out of their cars just now.
P2 and P3 on our screens, so no wonder is Philippe Hamprecht falling away from Manuel Metzger. It was 3.5 seconds now, because Marcos Gomez in the Hub Autocorsa Ferrari all behind him. When I say behind, I mean inside, going ahead. I didn't know the move was going to be made there. Very, very tight turn 6, and then just doing a fabulous job to do so. So the pace was with the Brazilian, and now let's see Hamprecht. Well, I just wonder, I'm not even sure you saw the move. I think you'd headed up to the pit lane when poor old Hamprecht, well, in fact, you were still up in the pit lane when Hamprecht lost the lead. He got behind a GT4 class runner, guessed the wrong way, had to come off the power, sweeping around the outside when Manuel Metzger. But let's take a look at the replay, especially for Steve Dawson.
Thank you.
Here we are. No, this is the change of third becoming second, but it was at the same point on the circuit where poor old Hamprecht lost out, and this time he was minding his own business, but clearly the life in those tyres has gone away. There I was saying that the Ferrari in the first part of the race looked so it was eating its tyres, but with the new driver on board, Marcos Gomez, making the best of the rubber now, he's not going to be able to, surely, with 8.5 minutes remaining to close, 3.5 seconds on the race leader. In fact, it's probably more than that, because the overtaking manoeuvre will have cost him time. You can see Hamprecht is struggling even to keep the car on the circuit at various points towards the end of the lap. Look at Gomez's pace, or is it a combination of the two? Great pace from the Brazilian and weakening pace from Hamprecht. Let's see the lap speeds last time around. It's 4.5 seconds Gomez is going to have to achieve. Yeah, he did a 2-minute 9.7 second lap, and the car he overtook 2-minute 11.3. So slower laps all around. Just running down through the class, the leading car in Pro-Am is Alex Imperatori. He should be not quite in the background of our shot yet. Any moment now coming around that corner onto the infield straight. He is in 7th place overall, the 918 Porsche from AAS Motorsport. And the car that's constantly mounting recovery drives in our screens, Chris van der Drift in that Porsche chasing the Ferrari. They both had one extra visit to the pits. Doesn't help your cause, but actually both in the top 10, showing a really good form and a real case of what might have been without those drive-through and stop-and-go visits to the pit lane.
Van Gisbergen's still knocking off very quick laps. He's a little way behind Imperatori, almost 5 seconds in fact, so he's going to have to work very hard to make up another place, but going quickly in the middle of the pack.
Certainly is, and unfortunately the driver Rahel Frey, second warning for exceeding track limits at turn 6. Rahel, the Swiss racer, she's holding on to 4th place overall, which would be a really good finish for them, but Leo Yi-Hong Lee is getting closer and closer. Now the team will be relaying to her, just stay within the circuits, we can't take a penalty. This is how hard the tail end of the top 10 are pushing. Frederick Schandorf in the white Lamborghini, and in behind Chris van der Drift, so Dane ahead of Kiwi as they fight their way around the track. Talk to the leader in Pro-Am, Alexander Imperatori, flying along, but only 7th place. Be quite disappointed with that, quite frankly. But there was a lot of sorting out in the early laps, but it must be said the AAS car started 7th in the hand of Vuti Collins for Fuvasak, running 7th, no gain, no loss. First to second, 4.5 seconds overall. Looking around this lap, and again, well, actually the advantage is slightly with Gomez giving chase, so he is bold, he is feisty, but 6 minutes left on the clock. The clock is running down. Challenges in the Pro-Am class, Imperatori sitting on a 4.5 second advantage over the car, the fastest car on the track last time around, and many times before, Shane van Gisbergen. But this man on our screens right now, Manuel Metzger, he pushed really hard in the opening part of this second stint, having taken over from Roloff Bruins, and got himself into the lead of the race, pulled ahead of Philip Hamprecht. Slightly lucky moment in where that GT4 car. Now he's got the chases on, but he'll be feeling very, very good indeed. Ought to be able to take it to the finish and take the championship lead. And the leader in the GT3 AM class, and doing so easily after a drive-through penalty for their rival Vitana Motorsport car, is the 51 Lamborghini. Ben Porter at the wheel. That's the car from AMAC Motorsport, looking for their 3rd class win of 2019. And always when you see McPherson and Porter up on the podium, everyone races because they love racing, but they like being up on the podium just as much. So it's great to see their enthusiasm. You almost always find the AM drivers the ones who really appreciate being up there the very most indeed. It's not to line their pockets with money. They might pick up a little check here or there, but they're not doing it as professional. They're doing it as AMs. They're doing it for the love of going for gold. Another fastest lap of the race last time around for Shane van Gisbergen. He's 3.6 seconds down now on Alex Imperatori, trying desperately to take the Pro-Am win to share with the Prince of Johor. And 3rd in the Pro-Am class, this is a battle for those behind. It's Frederick Schandorf. Can he resist Chris van der Drift? So GT3 Pro-Am, it runs from 7th overall. That's Imperatori back to 10th for Chris van der Drift. And others behind as well, but they've had their problems too. But for Schandorf and van der Drift, they've both had drive-through penalties. Hasn't helped their causes. 4 minutes remaining in this 1 hour race. The first of the 2 1 hour races on the series' inaugural visit to the career international circuit and making it look very easy indeed, Manuel Metzger. I really thought that Philippe Hamprecht would have the answers. He most certainly doesn't. The Mercedes from Indigo Racing is looking absolutely fantastic in the closing stage of the races. It would be no shame if Marcos Gomez closes in very slightly, but actually last time around a tenth of a second gained by the race leader, so the Ferrari was homing in by a small amount, was never going to be able to get close enough. And right now it looks as though the battle is all but won for the Mercedes. The background of the shot, they go out of turn 2, up the sloping straight to the turn 3 hairpin. You can see the top 3 runners in it, but unfortunately for the Porsche fans, Philippe Hamprecht muscled out of the race lead and he's fallen back, not just a second, back to 3rd. And if anything, I'd suggest that Rahel Frey, look at the last lap time, no, very, very similar, running in 4th, matching, if not yet quite passing him, but Liu Yihong Li closing in as well. And in GT4, it's Craft Bamboo Racing leading the way. Richard Wee, how big's his advantage? 3.5 seconds. I thought the challenge from Setiawan Santosa would close in, but the driver from Singapore has settled down very nicely indeed. There he is, Craft Bamboo Racing, racing in both of the classes. 3 cars in GT3, 1 in GT4. And it's the one that's at the very sharp end of that field. And looking at the respective lap times, in the closing stages of the racing class, it's all very much under control by Richard Wee. Likewise, Manuel Metzger, who is really, doesn't care if he's got rubber on his tyres, he's really getting that tail out and pushing very hard. 2.5 minutes remaining. Steve, you probably may need to consider nipping back to from where you've just come.
I think I'll bid you adieu. Yes, I'll do that. See you at Park Ferme.
Thanks very much. Steve Dawson doing a fabulous job in the pits and in the commentary box. I'm the one that stays in the air conditioning. Just lucky like that, really. So Manuel Metzger leading the way for Indigo Racing. Marcos Gomez giving chase but not catching in the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari. 3rd place, the car that got into lead of the race on the opening lap. Championship leaders, but for no longer, because as we approach the final lap of the race, Philippe Hamprecht back in 3rd position. And he started 6 points ahead of Roelof Bruins, but with 25 points for a win and only 15 for 2nd place. Do the maths. Championship lead is going to change. It will be a 4-point lead. -6 would turn to top 10, and so on to the final lap. It's a long lap here, 5.615 kilometres. This the final lap, so for Manuel Metzger, he can relax. He's got a GT4 runner between himself and the Ferrari that's in 2nd place. The Ferrari with Marcos Gomez, the Brazilian racer, making his championship debut, dives up the inside. And unfortunately, bodywork rubbing for the GTO Racing number 11. GT4 runner just lost a position there. Oh dear, that's really bad luck for Tony Fong. So that will drop that back down the order. No problems at all, and none wished on the German racer in the German car, shared with the Korean racer, the new championship leaders they will be if this lap can be completed. Past the dummy pits, well, the national racing pits, up towards turn 4, and then into the sequence after a couple of tight corners, the wonderful sequence of sweepers that brings the cars through the 2nd, 3rd of this lap. 2nd place, Marcos Gomez closed the gap last time around to 3.699 seconds. Won't be able to haul it down much more than that. Won't be able to gain another position. But welcome to the championship, Marcos. And all that form that has been so strong in in Brazilian stock cars over the last decade or so clearly translates very nicely indeed into driving the Ferrari super quickly. Not as fast as Shane Van Gisbergen is making that 888 Mercedes go, still in 8th position overall, just banged in yet another fastest lap of the race. But right now it's all eyes on the car started by Roelof Bruins, the Korean racer who spent his racing childhood in the Netherlands and since has returned here and is really getting things very right indeed. A huge fillip at the end of last year with their first win for Indigo Racing, and this year the crew with its Mercedes has looked very good indeed, has scored points in every single outing, and that's what you need in this championship if you want to be at the sharp end of the championship table. I feared when Metzger set off on this in this 2nd stint, his opening few laps were very, very hectic on the wheel, really pushing that Mercedes hard, but he clearly knows much more than I do, and that car has flown beautifully. There it is, through the final corner, up to the checkered flag, and that's win number 3 for this year for Indigo Racing. Cue delight down in the pit lane, and I'm sure that Roelof Bruins will be heading up towards the podium right now with a massive smile on his face as the new championship leader. Second place, Marcos Gomez, 4.8 seconds down at the end. He backed off on the final lap, but very tidy job. Through into 3rd place comes Philippe Hamprecht, what might have been. And Rahel Frey be delighted with 4th place. Liu Yihong Li, 5th. in one of the two Absolute Racing Porsches. Martin Rump got up to 6th and was really catching at the end of the race, but has to make do with 6th place overall. And right on the final lap, fastest lap, Shane van Gisbergen has just gone past Imperatori, so he's the top Pro-Am runner, so he did it on that final lap. Imperatori's had to settle for 2nd in Pro-Am, and 3rd will be Frederick Schandorf. There he is, just holding off Chris van der Drift, just coming through our shot there, the Lamborghini just ahead of the Porsche. And let's also round it up down in the AM class. Ben Porter, there he is, the 51, AMAC Motorsport Lamborghini. He wins that battle against the 128. Asabahami Chonsawat's car, both Lamborghinis in the AM class. And in GT4 it was a victory at the end to Craft Bamboo Racing, number 77, Richard Wee, joining in this weekend and making a really, really impressive splash, sharing with Frank Yu. They'll be delighted. Of course, the car that was slightly hindered in that thing, very close to all the others, but a drive-through penalty for the Sunako Jikuchu Takayuki Kinoshita BMW left them, unfortunately from their point of view, back in 4th place in the points, which helps jiggle the table around just that little bit. That keeps everything very interesting indeed. But still, of course, got one more race here in Korea tomorrow, then the finale, the 2 races at Shanghai to round out the season. So plenty of racing going on. 4.4 seconds the advantage at the end of the race, but it mattered not. Marcus Gomez catching up after he got into 2nd place, but realised he wasn't going to topple the race winner. Manuel Metzger, very, very impressive 2nd stint, it must be said. He attacked, gathered the fruit of all of that. Hamprecht slightly obstructed in traffic, but the fact he was then picked off by Marcos Gomez and will only be on the 3rd step of the podium shows that there were 2 quicker combinations out there at the end of the race. The top 3 cars in the championship filling the top 3 positions. But right now, here in Korea, bringing it home, Manuel Metzger knows he's completed the job that was started by the driver who kicked it off. Roelof Bruins started from pole position, shoveled down to 2nd on the opening lap, and now looking for a bit of picking up the rubber around the outside of the circuit. In after taking victory, a slow in lap there for Indigo Racing, but smiles all round for the Korean team with the Korean driver here in, well, Korea. And at the end of the race, just to point out, we had a couple of cars parked up in the pits. Andrew Harrianto we saw struggling a little bit in the 75 T2 Motorsports Ferrari, and also, unfortunately, a car that's taken 2 wins this year. We saw bodywork damage, and that cost Jeffrey Lee Deere, the car in which he's won several times with the Alessio Picariello, not completing the race. That's the 88 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. So Roelof Bruins will be waiting beneath the podium where the cars need to park for this man, Manuel Metzger, was immediately leading the chase. It looked as though it was job done after the pit stops, but not only did he catch Philippe Hamprecht's Porsche when it had quite a nice little lead, but you can hear the cheers. Home ground victory. So Manuel Metzger will be popping those belts and getting out of the oven, which is a racing cockpit here in such hot and humid conditions. And well, you know, he might even have the audacity to look cool, but for Manuel Metzger, oh yes indeed, absolute delight for the German. And where is his Korean co-driver, who's at least had around half an hour to cool down, but probably to the tension that Roelof Bruins was experiencing down in the pit lane, hoping and praying his car could go from 2nd into 1st. It did just that, and we will catch up with the pair of them as soon as possible. But the tall German up against the pit garage there, looking for his teammate. That's Manuel Metzger. He attacked and reaped the dividends. And as far as I recall, in fact, Indigo Racing's garage, I think, was the far end of the pit lane, so it's a long walk back. For Craft Bamboo Racing, they'll be sending up the winners' flags for this combination. Richard Wee and the driver who kicked off the race, Frank Yu. Victors in GT4. See our man Steve Dawson is down there, poised with microphone. Emmanuel Metzger just be getting his helmet off. So GT4 winners, so Mercedes win the race overall and they win the GT4 class as well. They also win the Pro-Am class, and the class that eluded them was one they didn't enter, which is the GT3 Am class, which was an all Lamborghini battle, and victory in that went to AMAC Motorsport. So more cheers for Craft Bamboo Racing as they come in, but really the big cheers should be shared for Manuel Metzger and the driver who kicked it off, the driver who is now a championship leader on his home ground, Roelof Bruins. What a great performance. First of 2 races here. And Steve has caught up with the winners. Let's go down.
Of course, we have to talk to Roloff first while Manuel just entered the car. You said it was a dream, and the dream came true in front of your home fans. What a great start to the weekend.
Yeah, in short, he did it. He did it. What a drive. I mean, amazing. To win here, like, couldn't be better. Pole to win. It's amazing.
To be fair, it didn't seem as if you were very hopeful on the changeover.
No, it was not the greatest, but as you can see, like, things can change overnight, and like, it's amazing, amazing race, really.
Wonderful stuff, Manuel. You worked very hard on that second leg.
Yeah, it was tough. I wanted to catch up. What I lost in the pit stop, I went out a bit too late. That was my mistake, so I wanted to make it up. And then Philip had a bit of bad luck in traffic. I saw coming what was happening, so I guessed for that direction, and it was the right direction. Then I could pass, and I know sector 2, sector 3, we are quicker. I have to pull a gap for sector 1 because they are quicker there, and I had the gap, and then I could pull off. And yeah, just amazing to win here.
All right, enjoy the champagne, fellas. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you very much. Great to hear there from our winners. Roloff Bruins races at MG Choi in 2019, and Manuel Metzger. What a star in the opening part of that second stint. So they want to hang around by their cars, but they need to be taken up to the podium. It's always that dilemma when you're so full of adrenaline and you're so happy. There are lots of photographers down there wanting, particularly Roloff Bruins, local hero doing exactly what he needs to do on home ground. But let's take a look at the race results. Nearly 5 seconds clear at the end of the race. But for Roloff Bruins, who started, and Manuel Metzger, that was the result they wanted. Gives them the championship lead. Yuya Sakamoto, really strong run. He ran second, and Marcos Gomez got the Ferrari back up into second place. Passing poor Philip Amprecht, who just got caught out, as we heard from Manuel Metzger in traffic, lost the lead, then lost the second place, but at least gathers points for third. Did come here as a championship leader with his teammate, Tanart Sathyanthirikul. Then we had Wyan Chen and Rahel Fry. Great result from them, fourth overall. And Leo Yihong Lee, really good final stint for him, sharing with Wanbo to come home in fifth place. And a few of the front-running cars are also picking up drive-through penalties, and that's why we had the likes of Alex Imperatori, Frederick Schandorf and Chris van der Drift down at the tail of the top 10. But really busy out on the track. Good, clean racing. Only one real bit of contact that we saw, another couple of cars with little bits of damage, but apart from the McLaren biffing poor old Christina Nielsen into a spin, it was very clean, and I think they've all really enjoyed the challenge here on the Korea International Circuit. All they want for tomorrow is cooler weather conditions and less humidity, but I'm afraid it's probably going to be just as hot and sticky for the second of our 2 races here, for the 5th of the 6 rounds of the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. And there we have the GT4 class winners. Frank Yu in 17th place overall, sharing with Richard Wee, who brought it home. And then the team iRace.win Mercedes. Unfortunately for BMW Team Studi, a drive-through penalty for a misdemeanor has dropped them down to 4th in class. But that gives the championship a little bit of a shake-up, which is always very, very exciting indeed. But right now, today, the race Saturday at the Korea International Circuit belongs to Manuel Metzger, who brought it home, and the driver who started from pole position, the Korean hero, really reaping the benefits on home ground. Roloff Bruins, and we'll find them all up on the podium very soon indeed. Great racing here at a wonderful circuit. A somewhat neglected circuit. It's sort of fallen off the international stage. Just got ready and prepared in time for 2010 World Championship debut. Had 4 Grand Prix, 3 of which were won by Sebastian Vettel. But let's take a look back at the highlights of what happened here, race Saturday at the Korea International Circuit. Left of screen was a driver hoping to take the lead, Tanart Sathyanthirikul, but covering it off on the inside. Roloff Bruins did what he needed to do on that run to the first corner. All clean, tidy in there. There was a bit of contact, I think, at turn 3. A little bit of contact right there. In fact, Jeffrey Lee almost coming to a stop. And then further around the lap, that's turn 3. He's on the outside. Look for the Porsche getting a better exit, though. Got the power down just slightly early onto that infield straight, and by the time they got up to turn number 4, the Porsche was ahead of the Mercedes. Roloff Bruins could do nothing about it. He cursed the fact it seemed to have more speed, and Yuya Sakamoto trying to dive up the inside for second place in the Ferrari and managing to do so. Roloff Bruins being put a little bit onto the grass, so that's why third was his position rather than second, and then trying to make moves, but outbraking himself. The Prince of Johor, Jeffrey Ibrahim, getting it wrong, and that was Anthony Liu, who'd fallen to the tail of the field, fighting his way back up the order to try and get to the front of the Pro-Am honours. And then, unfortunately, there clearly had been some contact on the opening lap of the race, so this car, the 88 Mercedes, had battle, but for Jeffrey Lee, that went rather wrong later in the race. Craft Bamboo Racing, Christina Nielsen just at the tail of the top 10, being chased very hard indeed by Piti Bhirombhakdi, and unfortunately this was a moment that wasn't quite enough space for Bhirombhakdi to go through. And Anthony Liu said thank you very much on his recovery drive, went past, and a drive-through penalty came the way of the McLaren team, hardly surprisingly for that incident. Then of course came the regular pit stops. The car looking to go forward to the number 13 Audi for Absolute Racing, but it didn't progress as far as the top 10. Tidy pit stop. Tanat Sathyan Thirikul handed over to Philip Hamprecht, and a couple of laps later in came the Indigo Racing Mercedes, but by the time they rejoined, the Mercedes was behind but caught up, and this is the moment. First turned into second, nearly third for Philip Hamprecht, got caught up behind the GT4 class leading Craft Bamboo Racing, lost the lead, lost momentum, and the Ferrari got into his tail as well. And unfortunately for Hamprecht, he wasn't able to resist the Ferrari for very long. You can see the Ferrari could be placed where the driver wanted, and in no time at all it was Marcos Gomez, the Brazilian racer, up the inside. Job done. Third became second. Nothing he could do about the pace of the Indigo Racing Mercedes, however. Emmanuel Metzger, who really attacked from the outset of his stint, able to bring it home towards the end of the race, was able finally to relax, and at the end he was nearly 5 seconds to the good over Marcos Gomez for a famous win for the Indigo Racing Mercedes here on home ground in the Korea International Circuit. Look at that joy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony for Race 1 Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia at the Korea International Circuit. We'll begin this ceremony with the overall winners. In third place, driving car 911, Tanat Sathyan Thirikul and Philip Hamprecht. In second place, Yuya Sakamoto and Marcos Gomez. And your winners, taking the top step of the podium, car number 97, Roloff Bruins and Manuel Metzger.
Well, you don't have to listen to their joy, you can see it as well. Great racing to take them to the front of the race. Slightly subdued third step of the podium for Tanat Sathyan Thirikul, who did such a good job to take the lead and stay there, but Philip Hamprecht caught out in traffic, nothing he could do thereafter. Now, of course, it's time for the podium ceremony with the trophies to be added to those bottles of fizz that are waiting to be uncorked. And the trophies will follow for all the crews. This is the third place crew. Came here as championship leaders, but it's a slender lead. That has now been reversed. Even if they'd come home in second rather than third, they would have lost the championship leaders lead to the drivers on the top step of the podium. Left of podium, the black overalls with the white stripes on the side, that is Marcos Gomez. Very impressive championship debut. And Yuya Sakamoto with the yellow flanks on his overalls. Very happy indeed with second place. But look, Manuel Metzger, wait for the cashier. Here he is, Roloff Bruins, Korean racer at home.
And ladies and gentlemen,
don't they like it?
Welcome Benjamin Franasovici, Series Director, SRO, to award the checks.
So there is our series director, Benjamin Franasovici, handing out the checks. But it's the points they came here for, and it's the points they've collected that really count. Mind you, $10,000, very useful indeed for the race winners, but it's the smiles, also for them having their sponsors here this weekend. Always good to win in front of all of your sponsors. So overall, top three, and they're all pro lineups there. In fact, the top car in the Pro-Am class was in 7th place overall, and that was the 888 Racing Mercedes crew.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's open the champagne.
Now, of course, when you get to the champagne ceremony, it's always slightly muted after the first one, but when you get to race 2 and they don't need to wear those overalls again all weekend, everybody lets rip. But right now, it's the joy unbounded for particularly Roloff Bruins, the Korean racer at home. But for Manuel Metzger, who's shared some of the races with him, they've won before and they've won. This is their most important win together. This is the one that puts them into the championship lead. And they're going to have to see how they can do tomorrow. But I'm not going to spoil the fun, but they're not starting right at the sharp end. So it's going to be a tale of 2 grids for them. And and we will see where they can advance. In fact, they're starting 4th tomorrow, and some of their championship rivals, are down in 11th. So, in fact, it is advantage their way. But let's take a look, a refresher at the results at the end of all that. Victory for Olaf Bruins, who kicked it off, Emmanuel Metzger in 2nd place. Yuya Sakamoto and Marcus Gomez came here 3rd on points, and showing why they're good for that with 2nd today. And Tanat Sathi and Thiracal and Philip Hamprecht caught out in traffic, lost the lead, lost their mojo, down in 3rd place, lost the championship lead as well. Wyan Chen, Rahul Frey, good run for them in their Audi to 4th place overall. Victory in the Pro-Am class, Shane van Gisbergen and Jeffrey Ibrahim, the Prince of Johor, so they'll be delighted with that. And the top runners in Am, Andrew McPherson, Ben Porter in 14th place overall. It's been hot and humid here at the Korea International Circuit. There's some great racing on a circuit that really does encourage great racing, and I'm sure everybody enjoying it. All they want tomorrow is a slightly cooler race. All we want tomorrow is more of the same. It's been a great first visit. We know we're coming back here in 2020 and are looking forward to it all over again. But don't forget, race day 2 is tomorrow.
Alrighty. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the GT3 Pro-Am class. Welcoming to the stage, please give your applause for car number 666, Alex Zhao and Frederick Schandorf. Taking 2nd place in car 918, Vutikon Intra Fuvasak and Alexandre Imperatori. The 888 car takes the top step, driven by Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane van Gisbergen.
So here are the top 3 crews, and Jeffrey Ibrahim, Prince of Johor, first out, and the bearded, tall figure of the Kiwi, Shane van Gisbergen, the man who really, really made that happen. Amazing charge and took that position, the lead in the class, right on the final lap. So that's how you build your drama. So trophies coming out now, and it's never more exciting. I mean, to win your class is absolutely brilliant. 7th overall, great position too. So it just shows how the Prince of Johor is really, really finding his markers this year on his debut in international racing. Astonishing performance, but the hard work, the real chopping, must be said, done by the big Kiwi there, Shane van Gisbergen, and what a chase. So for Alexander Imperatori, just couldn't quite resist. And so 2nd step of the podium for them, but yet more very, very strong points for that pairing in the Pro-Am Championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, Benjamin Franasovici, Series Director, SRO.
And so, of course, when you take the Pro-Am class, you get a Blancpain clock as well. So might be the first one that appears in a royal palace. That's very good news indeed. But Jeffrey has fallen off the back of the podium as he waits for the official photographs. Maybe he's trying to get everything out of the way of the champagne when it starts to be sprayed. But Pro-Am winners, just to reiterate, for 888 Race Engineering Australia, Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane van Gisbergen. Top step today. Will they do it all over again tomorrow? Jeffrey Ibrahim, he's quick on the track. He's also quick off the podium. Keep those race overalls dry. Mind you, they're not exactly going to be dry after racing in such incredibly hot and humid conditions here at the Korea International Circuit. And for a lot of those drivers, they had drive-through penalties as well. They'll be thinking how they could make their life rather easier in race 2 tomorrow. Still podiums to come for AM and the GT4 class as well, and certainly some great racing, most notably in GT4, where it was very, very close indeed throughout the first half of this race.
Please, in 2nd place, driving car number 1, 2. And taking the top step off the podium, the 51 car, Andrew McPherson and William Ben Porter.
So 2 crews contesting the GT3 AM class. The top step being taken by Andrew McPherson, is up there now, and Ben Porter, who brought it home, and the Vitana Motorsport crew on the left hand of the trophy, the podium. Johnson Asabahami and Akihiro Asai, all armed with Lamborghinis. But unfortunately, any semblance of it staying tight to the end was scuppered by the Vitana Motorsport crew picking up a drive-through penalty, and that was enough to make it an easy cruise there. Not that they backed off, but it just took the pressure off for Andrew McPherson and Ben Porter.
To maintain those memories.
Always smiling, looking very, very pleased indeed. The taller figure of Andrew McPherson, quite a joker up on the podium. He's getting quite a selection of photos for winning in the class and for being up on that podium most times out, and he will certainly be uncorking the champagne. He doesn't miss an opportunity like that. Now, just looking ahead to the second of the races, of course, we have success penalties to be added. So the top three crews today will pick up extra time at their pit stop, and that will really shape the race. Already preparing the podium here for the GT4 runners. Should be some very happy faces up on the podium, most notably Richard Wee, who only joined the championship for his 2019 debut this weekend. So let's welcome him to the podium.
Place, driving car number 199, Yeongam and Zhou Qi. In second place, the 111 car, Setia 1 Santoso, Ringo Chong. And to take the top step of the podium in the 77 car, Frank Yu and Richard Wee.
You can hear the delight there from the Craft Bamboo Racing crew. Frank Yu and Richard Wee coming out to take that top step. And any time you can get ahead of the Team Judy BMW team is a good result indeed. So trophies all around. So for Team iRace.win, taking second and third positions, they'll gather some useful points for that. But it was Craft Bamboo Racing today. Mercedes first, second and third on a rare occasion when the BMW Team Studio crew wasn't at the top. Richard Wee on the left of the top step of the podium pauses to breathe out. It's hot work out there, and when you're north of 50, I can attest, it seems all the hotter too. But Frank Yu, another useful haul of points for him. And Richard Wee raced in 2017, raced in 2018, making his 2019 debut in the championship, enjoying life on the very top step of the podium. Out come the checks presented by Benjamin Pranasevici. Just waiting for the winner's check. There it is, $3,500 to go into the pot for Craft Bamboo Racing. Maybe they can spend it for some more fans for the garage. Certainly hot and humid here at Korea. It's been great fun. We've got to do it all over again tomorrow. Looking forward to it very, very much indeed when the pot is stirred. Totally different grid for tomorrow's race. And we'll see how it all unfolds.
And why not? Let's enjoy some champagne!
So the final blast of champagne from the podium here after the first of two races for the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. Our first visit to Yeongam, to the Korea International Circuit. We've already had the 2020 calendar released and we'll be coming back here all over again. And there's a sting in the tail for 2020. The final round is going to be an endurance round, and that'll give it a really different mix. So that's it from Race Saturday here at the Korea International Circuit. Come and join us tomorrow. We're going to do it all over again. Got new championship leaders. Will they still be there at close of play tomorrow?